Speaker, and before I move this motion, I want to seek the leave of this House, and I want to request Honorable Wanja Karuko and Honorable Jones Kinegeni to support my request for the leave of this House.
Honorable Wanja.
I support the motion.
Honorable Kinegeni.
I support the motion.
The mover, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, because majority of these honorable members of this list, that is the motion on the report of the Committee on Selection or Nomination of Members to serve the County Assembly, to serve in various committees of the County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, on privies, on membership, on committees mandate, on backing ground, Mr. Speaker, even on acknowledgement, Mr. Speaker, when, of course, the County Assembly committees, Mr. Speaker, the types of committees, Mr. Speaker, allow me to start from where it is written, the types of committees, that is on page 5, Mr. Speaker, so that we save on time, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, types of committees in section 2.1. Committees of the County Assembly are established pursuant to section 4 of the County Government Act 2012, the County Assembly of Tharaka standing orders and resolutions of the Assembly. There are two major types of Assembly committees, namely, one, we have sectoral committees. The mandate of sectoral committees is anchored under the Tharaka County Standing Order number 225 and is exercised within the remits contemplated under Part 2 of the 4th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. These committees are agriculture, livestock and fisheries; 2, water, environment and natural resources; 3, transport, public works and infrastructure; 4, lands, housing and physical planning; 5, trade, tourism and cooperatives; 6, county public service and administration; 7, health services; 8, education, science and technology; 9, youth, sport and social services. 2, 1, 2. That is select committees as the other type of the committees. The mandate of select committees is anchored under the Tharaka County Standing Orders number 216 to 224. These committees are Assembly Business Committee under Standing Order number 216. We have Selection Committee under Standing Order number 217. We have Appointment Committee that has almost ended its work a few minutes ago. It is under Standing Order number 218. We have the County Assembly Powers and Privileges Committee and Standing Order number 219, Public Investment and Accounts Committee, Standing Order number 220, Finance, Budget and Appropriation and Standing Order number 221, Procedure and Assembly Rules Committee and Standing Order number 222, Standing Order number 222, Implementation Committee and Standing Order number 223, Delegated County Registration and Standing Order number 224. Mr. Speaker, the committee was guided by the following standing orders in nominating members to serve in these committees. 1, Standing Order number 3, which states that assembly party means a party or a coalition of parties formed in accordance with the provisions of the Political Parties Act, consisting of not less than 20% of the membership of the assembly. Standing Order number 29, the provisions of this party do not obligate any assembly or a party to cause the election of members into the positions prescribed in instances where a party does not meet the threshold required under Standing Order number 3, relating to recognition of parties as an assembly party. Standing Order number 185, where it talks of nomination of members of the committees. It provides that unless otherwise provided by written law or of its standing orders, the Committee on Selection shall, in consultation with assembly parties, nominate members who shall serve on a committee. Number 2 of it, that the Committee on Selection shall give consideration to the need for gender balance and shall so far as may practical ensure that no more than 2/3 of members of committee of the assembly, including a committee established through a resolution of the assembly, shall be of the same gender. We note as so far as may be practical. Standing under number 186 criteria for nomination, it provides that in nominating members to serve on committees, the selection committee shall ensure that the membership of each committee reflects the relative majorities of the seats held by each of the assembly parties in the assembly. Number 2, despite paragraph 1, a member belonging to a party other than an assembly party or independent member may be nominated to serve in committee, and the allocation of membership of committee shall be as nearly as practical proportional to the number of members belonging to such parties and independent members. Number 3, except as the assembly may otherwise resolve on the recommendation of the Committee on Selection for reasons to be stated, no member shall be appointed to serve in more than 3 sectoral committees. Standing under number 189, composition of committees. It states that, subject to any written law, this is standing under or as a resolution of the Assembly, a committee shall consist of an odd number of members, being not less than 5 and not more than 7 members. Honorable Speaker, standing under number 217.2, it provides that the Committee on Selection shall nominate members to serve in committees, save for the membership of the Assembly Business Committee and Committee on Appointment. Having considered the above provisions and regional balancing among other factors, the committees nominated members of the County Assembly to serve in committees as follows. Sectoral Committee, understanding under number 225, Committee on Trade, Tourism and Cooperatives. Honorable Muchiri, Godfrey Muridi. Honorable Kabe, Jones Kinegeni. Honorable S. Derin Justin Kidinji. Honorable Yungo Nancy Modoni. Honorable Malengo Lu Kunyaga Njeru. Committee on Public Service and Administration. Honorable Mbae Lisbeth Gateria. Honorable Mbae Anta Karemi. Honorable Kamunyo Kennedy, Honorable Purity Wanja Muntwadida, Honorable Nyaga Franklin Mawira. Committee on Education, Science and Technology. Honorable Mbae Lisbeth Gateria, Honorable Purity Wanja Muntwadida, Honorable Mbae Anta Karemi, Honorable Kamunyo Kennedy, Honorable John Joseph Jeru. Committee on Health Services. Honorable Gitonga Morris Maugu, Honorable Nderi Justin Kidinji, Honorable Kaduni Lispa Aki, Honorable Kaloko Wanja, Honorable Mugao Sylvester Kanyaru, Honorable Nevat Ntwiga, Honorable Godfrey Muchiri. Committee on Youth, Sport and Culture. And it's important we note that it is Committee on Youth, Sport and Culture, but we have Honorable Gitonga Morris Maugu, Honorable Nyaga Franklin Mawira, Honorable Kaduni Lispa Aki, Honorable Anta Karemi, and the Honorable Gitonga Leonard J. Kedoka. Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. We have Honorable John Joseph Jeru, Honorable Kiriko Jacob Murimi Ndeke, Honorable Ruse Mudoni Ndega, Honorable Purity Wanja Muntwadida, Honorable Gitonga Leonard J. Kedoka, 6, Honorable Jagi Zakaria Mwaniki, 7, Honorable Karoku Wanja. Committee on Water, Environmental and Natural Resources. We have 1, Honorable John Joseph Jeru, 2, Honorable Kiriko Jacob Murimi Deke, 3, Honorable Rusi Modoni Ndega, 4, Honorable Yungo Nancy Modoni, 5, Honorable Jagi Joseph Kenywa, 6, Honorable Jagi Zakaria Moneki, 7, Honorable Kabe Jones Kinegeni. Committee on Transport, Loans and Infrastructure, 1, Honorable Jagi Joseph Kenywa, 2, Honorable Marengo Ruk Nyaga Jeru, 3, Honorable Nevat Dwega, 4, Honorable Murungi Raya Fatuma, 5, Honorable Mwaura Job Wangi. Committee on Lands, Housing and Physical Planning, 1, Honorable Nyaga Franklin Mawira, 2, Honorable Mugao Sylvester Kanyaru, 3 Honorable Nefat Dwega, 4 Honorable Murungi Rael Fatuma, 5 Honorable Mwaura Joel Mwangi. Selection Committee, in the section of selection committees, person to committees on powers and privileges. Sorry. We move to Committee on Powers and Privileges. That is under Standing Order number 219. Persons to the provisions of Standing Order number 219 as done together with the Standing Order number 189 on the composition of committees being an odd number. The committee nominated 4 members of the County Assembly instead of 3, in addition to those provided 4 to serve in the Committee on Powers and Privileges, since there is no leader of minority. These nominees are Honorable Mbaye Respect Gateria, 2 Honorable Kiriko Jacob Muremindeke, 3 Honorable Jagi Joseph Kenywa, 4 Honorable Gitonga Morris Maugu. Committee on Public Accounts and Investments, Honorable Mbaye Respect Gateria, 1, 2 Honorable Mbaye Antakaremi, 3 Honorable Kamunyo Kennedy, 4 Honorable Kiriko Jacob Muremindeke, 5 Honorable Jagi Sakalia Mwaniki. Committee on Finance, Budget and Appropriation, 1 Honorable Muchiri Godfrey, 2 Honorable Kabe Jones Kenegeni, 3 Honorable Justin Kedenji, 4 Honorable Yongo Nancy Modoni, 5 Honorable Malengo Luku Nyaga Jero. Committee on Assembly Rules and Procedures, there are those mandatory members, and in addition, we consider the following: 1 Honorable Pudi Tawanja Montwadida, 2 Honorable Muchiri Godfrey Muchiri, 3 Honorable Mugao Sylvester Kanyaru. Committee on Implementation, Honorable Nevat Ntwega, 2 Honorable Jagin Joseph Kenywa, 3 Honorable Kabuni Lis Pagaki, 4 Honorable Murungi Rael Fatuma, 5 Honorable Mwaura Joel Mwangi, 6 Honorable John Joseph Jero, 7 Honorable Nyaga Franklin Mawira. Committee on Delegated Registration, we have Honorable Gitonga Morris Maugu, 2 Honorable Kabe Jones Kenegeni, 3 Honorable Justin Kirinji, 4 Honorable Rusi Modondiga, 5 Honorable Mugao Sylvester Kanyaru, 6 Honorable Yungu Nancy Modoni, 7 Honorable Wanja Karuku. In conclusion, the committee amber submission that the Assembly do adopt and approve its reports on the nomination of members of the County Assembly to serve in the County Assembly committees. Mr. Speaker, the committee considered the provisions as I have just highlighted, and Mr. Speaker, we tried as much as possible to ensure that the regional balance, the gender balance, the interest of the independents, and more so, Mr. Speaker, we tried to align honorable members such that no committee shall lack quorum in any given time. Mr. Speaker, in the former assembly, we under something we used to call clusters. It was possible because the MCAs by then were an even number. They were 20. This time they were 23. We tried all the matrix. It could not work. So, Mr. Speaker, we came to a conclusion that we try as much as possible to ensure that at least if any committee happens to sit, then of course they don't miss on quorum. Mr. Speaker, there are those committees that it was mandatory. We have 5. And of course, there was no way of exceeding to 7 because of our own standing orders. Mr. Speaker, there were those that our standing orders around to have 7, and Mr. Speaker, it was possible. Mr. Speaker, God in His own wisdom provided for everybody in this house either to be a chair or even to be a vice chair. It does not happen in majority of the assemblies, like in Meru, like in Nairobi, where there are so many MCAs as compared to the number of seats. And of course, Mr. Speaker, we know responsibilities comes with the nomination. So, Mr. Speaker, there is no worry to any particular member in this particular house because all of them, in one way or another, from the way the committee composed this team, they will have an opportunity to serve as either a chair or even as a vice chair. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I want to request Honorable Luke Malengo Nyaganjero to second the motion, and I beg to move the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Malengo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I I stand to second the motion on selection committee that was selected to sit down and make selection and place members of this house in various committees. And Mr. Speaker, I want to let this house in understanding that first we should congratulate the committee, the selection committee, that sat down for 3 days trying to balance in various considerations that they were laid on the table. One being regional balance, second being the two-third gender rule. We also consider the party position and also profession in some areas. Mr. Speaker, I beg the members of this House to adopt this motion so that this committee can start working together with the CECs that we have just adopted the list for this our House to move on. Mr. Speaker, these two sectoral committees, these types of committees, the sectoral committee and the select committee, the members ensured that every member in this House has 2 sectoral committees and not more than 2. And every member still is appearing in the list of the select committee. And when you look at this list, you find there are some things, there are some balancing that were done, and you find out that maybe a member who was interested, or maybe your profession is somewhere, and then you fail to be in that committee. Either it was affected by 1, the region where you're coming from, or 2, the gender that you are in. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg this House to adopt this motion on these committees so that we can move on as the House, because there are so many challenges that are affecting our people down there, especially the water issue that has been discussed here by so many honorable members. Because especially in my ward, Mokodima, the lower part of Mokodima, actually all rivers have dried. And all these things can be done by the activeness of CEC together with the committee on water. So I stand, Mr. Speaker, to support the motion, and I request my colleagues, honorable members, to adopt this motion so that we can move on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the motion having been seconded, I will now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Section 14B of the County Government Act 2012 and standing order number 185 of the Nithi County Assembly standing orders, that the Assembly do adopt and approve the report on Committee on Selection on nomination of members of the County Assembly to serve in various County Assemblies committees. Honorable members, you can now make your contributions. The debate is open. Honorable Nithi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am a member of this committee, a committee that needed a lot of matrix, a committee that needed a lot of time, Honorable Speaker, because what we are bringing this out, Honorable Speaker, it is the kitchen of this assembly. Honorable Speaker, without committees, we cannot get business in this house. Without committees, Honorable Speaker, we cannot have, we cannot keep our CECs on their toes, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I know in this afternoon, Honorable Speaker, we have passed the nominees of the CEC, Honorable Speaker, which is not part of this assembly, but this is what belongs to us, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when we talk of sectoral committees, and one must not be in more than 3 sectoral committees, Honorable Speaker, we had to consider this with a lot of seriousness. We had also to consider also the balance of the regions, Honorable Speaker, and also the gender. Honorable Speaker, this House is led by the Constitution. Also, we are led, Honorable Speaker, by standing orders, and also the presidents. Honorable Speaker, the reason why I'm talking about the presidents, what had happened earlier, Honorable Speaker. When we elected in the second assembly, Honorable Speaker, we formed the committees and we had a lot of challenges when it came to the issue of quorum, Honorable Speaker. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, we had also to dissolve all the committees and came up with clusters. Honorable Speaker, because of the number, that is the only number that we have in this house, we could not afford to come up with clusters. But Honorable Speaker, let me report, we have a semi-clusters, Honorable Speaker, where no member can miss a meeting because of quorum, and no member can miss maybe a tour or a county tour or even a seminar because of lack of quorum of a committee. Honorable Speaker, those are the issues that we consider. And I know, Honorable Speaker, where if we approve this committees, Honorable Speaker, in this house, from tomorrow, Honorable Speaker, we need to now to go on and start business. And Honorable Speaker, we know very well when I talk about a kitchen. Without a kitchen in a home, Honorable Speaker, know that people will get angry. That is where I am, Honorable Speaker. I don't want to explain further. So I do support. Thank you.
Honorable Kiriko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to support this motion, and I do wish to thank the committee for the job well done. However, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform my member, to inform honorable member for Mukodhima that in future when they go to do some of these things, it is very important to understand that regions cannot supersede professionalism. That is common knowledge, Mr. Speaker. At any time when we talk about professionalism, we may forego the regions to ensure that we get the right members in the right committees. I support Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Anita.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support, but I have a few buts as Honorable Kiriko has noted. And Mr. Speaker, first, this is the first time I have seen, because we only have the majority and the whip. I have seen the majority and the whip in the same committee. So I don't know if they happen to travel all of them, what will happen. And then funnily enough, Mr. Speaker, if it was not for the standing order 187, I would have objected to this, to the select court to this report, because we need to move. And Mr. Speaker, maybe next time let us be told that the people that we nominate to the select committee should all qualify to be the budget committee, because apart from Riongo Nancy Modoni, all the other members of the budget committee are members of the select committee. And Mr. Speaker, I believe, I don't say it is wrong, but at least sometimes let us give, these positions selflessly, so that at least we can move as a house. And as Honorable Kiriko has said, let professionalism supersede the regions. That was my observation. But Mr. Speaker, as I have stated, for the sake of standing order 187, I'll support the report as it is.
For the sake of standing order number 187, that a member shall not be a member of a committee of the assembly unless the nomination of such a member into the committee is approved by the assembly. That is the only reason that you're supporting. Okay. It has three sections. Section 1, 2, and 3. 187.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and sorry for interrupting. Because if I object to the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, which is fully owned by the select committee members, we dismiss the whole report, which will drag this house way back. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. Also noting that such a motion, if it fails, with the same substance can only be brought back in the house after a period of 6 months. So you will have held yourselves hostage for the entire 6 months period. Honorable Sylvester, your hand was up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support this motion, though with the mixed feelings. Mr. Speaker, as some of my colleagues have observed, at one time I tend to think that there are provisions in our standing orders whereby some committees are automatically occupied by members of the selection committee. Why? Because when you look at some committees, you find, in fact, over 98% of those members are members of the selection committee. And Mr. Speaker, unless you tell me there's something special in those committees, and if there's something special in those committees, then the members of the selection committee, they have done a lot of justice to other members, if there's any special interest in those committees. But Mr. Speaker, for the interest of this House moving forward, I support the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The mover will respond in due course. He will also give you the composition of the selection committee. But I remember that you passed this selection committee in this House. So, but nevertheless, the mover will respond to that. Honorable Njeru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support, adopt, and approve this motion, Mr. Speaker, with the same feelings that we are going to support and approve this motion. But I want to actually inform the selection committee that next time, when they are called upon to do work for this House, they should not be served. Let them remember that they are working for all of us and not for them. I am a new member in this House, but I know most of the work depends with committees. So it is it's paramount that we pass this motion so that we can get to work, so that we can put the executive in checks, so that we can work for our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have very important issues affecting our country now. We have drought. Apart from even water dry, the rivers drying, we have a lot of actually acute drought in most of part of this county, where I believe now with the committees in possession, they might be able to try to take measures that are going to help our people as we wait for the rains. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Honorable Genodia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Me being a member of this committee, I stand to support. And Honorable Speaker, we are getting battered by members from all the sides. Maybe we became a little bit selfish. I take this opportunity as a member to apologize for what happened, and let us support the motion for the sake of moving forward. Honorable members, it does not make sense when you are sent by people and what you bring to them, they are not even comfortable. That is why I apologize on behalf of the committee. And I want you to give us your confidence back anytime you send us. We are not going to do like that. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Order, members. Honorable Maugu.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose this motion because, Mr. Speaker, we sent the wrong team to do this work for us. You see, for example, Mr. Speaker, when you talk about professionalism, you can always send a mechanic.
Are you on a point of order, Honorable Murithi? Point of order?
I'm on a point of order.
Okay. Honorable Maugu, please be seated. There is a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, I want Honorable Maugu to withdraw the ones that they sent to the wrong people, Honorable Speaker, because they are the ones who approved the motion in this House, Honorable Speaker, for the selection committee. So, Honorable Speaker, it's good we own the committee as much as we own the product. Thank you.
Honorable Maugu, it has been detected that you are swallowing your own words, because as it has been put by the Honorable Member for Karingani, this House approved the names of that committee. So the request is that you withdraw the words of sending the wrong people to that committee.
Every member, Mr. Speaker, who have talked before, I see that this team was selfish. Because you see, for example, the Budget and Finance Committee, the Select Committee, all the members are in that committee, Mr. Speaker.
Did you say members or members?
Members. Mr. Speaker, you can't send a mechanic to go and do surgery. You see, like the member from Mwimbe, Mr. Speaker, is in the Budget Committee, Mr. Speaker. In history, I knew from a long time ago, Mr. Speaker, I've known the member from Mwimbe to be a motorcycle driver, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order from Anita. I think Honorable Maugu, before the point of order, that is too personal. That one you will have to withdraw and apologize for that. That is becoming too personal, Honorable Member. Honorable Anita.
I stand on point of order one under your protection. Mr. Speaker, I believe every member that is elected or nominated in this House is suitable to serve in any committee, but not on a consensus ground. So, Mr. Maugu should not tell us, Honorable Maugu should not tell us that Honorable Kinegeni is a cyclist, and he has been elected by the people of Mwembe twice. So it is not right for him to tell us that he's a cyclist. He can even be the chair budget or even the speaker because he qualifies by the people of Mwembe believing in him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Maugu, you will not run away from this. You only have to apologize on that and withdraw that sentiment before we proceed.
I apologize, Mr. Speaker, but I find it sweet for the Honorable Member from Mwembe to be in the Transport Committee, Mr. Speaker, and replace him with another member, the member for Mogwe, Mr. Speaker, because he's a certified public accountant, Mr. Speaker, to go to the Budget Committee, Mr. Speaker. That's all I have, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Anja.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion, and I was one of the members in that committee, Mr. Speaker, and it was one of the hardest tasks because we did that committee 4 times without getting the right answer. I would ask these honorable members, when you go to bake a cake is made of so many flavors. Some would like sugar, vanilla, salty. So I would urge the honorable members, we did the best that we could because I was also being trained on how to do these committees, and we did to our best. And as I was seated with the gentlemen who were in before this House, I never saw their selfishness. They were just expressing where they could be well suited to work for the people of Tharaka Nithi. So I would urge you, honorable members, we adopt the motion for the betterment of Tharaka Nithi County, and we withdraw the word selfishness because I never saw that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it is prudent for most of us, as I said before, to understand that professionalism supersedes everything else.
You're on a point of order, Honorable Member, not contribution.
And what I'm saying is, when Honorable Wanja is telling us about embracing the flavors, Mr. Speaker, you will not tell us that you'll wake up in the morning, go get a medical doctor when you have maybe when you want to do repairs for your vehicle and you want them to repair this vehicle. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very important whenever this committee sits, they observe professionalism because it is supersedes.
Honorable Member, you made your contributions, you stood on a point of order, you're actually out of order now. Honorable Kenywa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I support the motion since I was a member of the select committee, and I heard my brother, Honorable Maugu, member of County Assembly of Mozambique. My friend, next time, since I'm sure I will be in the committee, you'll get a nice cake. So I urge you to support the motion and go home to the county.
Yes, point of order, Honorable Jeru.
Mr. Speaker, is the member for Chikariga Inonda to tell Maogo there's a nice cake anywhere in the committee?
Honorable Member for Chiakariga, maybe you can clarify what you meant on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I mean by telling my dear friend, my dear brother, there will be a nice cake. Maybe he was about to get the committee on budget. Next time, maybe there will be a rotation. That's what I mean.
Honorable members, I would wish to advise that immunity will not guarantee impunity. So let's have decorum, at least when you are addressing other members. You know, as much as you're in an assembly, you need to respect other members because you're all members of the county assembly. More so, others have been elected, others have been nominated, and it is always good to use some decorum when addressing your fellow members. And I said, as much as there is immunity in the House. Honorable Zachary, your hand was up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion and also to support some of the members that have talked about the professionalism. I want to support this, as I also say, maybe to Honorable Member for Mozambique, who has mentioned another member. I have seen him in the Committee for Health, of which I believe Honorable Member of Mozambique is not a health profession. So I want to support. I'd say that now as members, wherever one maybe will be having the issues in the committee, can see where to get maybe clarity on that advice from other members. Because I believe when we sent our select committee to go and do the work, we did not give them our CVs, our certificates to check what we have done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Honorable members, again, I will invoke standing on number 106 subsection 4, which allows me at the conclusion of a debate to allow the mover of the motion to respond to some of the issues that have been raised. Honorable Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to thank these honorable members for voting on the motion that was just before them, or just before this House. Mr. Speaker, I have keenly listened to what they have said and what they have to say about the selection committee. Mr. Speaker, for sure, just like it has been correctly put, I remember I left that place that is on the first day because I chose to go to some other place. And at around 8:30, I received a call from one honorable who was also a member. And surprisingly, he told me we are still trying to see whether we can work on this matrix. Some may not really know the sacrifice that was done, at least to come close to something that is acceptable. Of course, it may not be 100% acceptable, but at least we are somewhere. So, honorable members, I'm really urging you to pass this motion. And I want to put a challenge onto you and tell you how your committee becomes, how effective your committee becomes will purely depend on the members. One honorable member said rightfully that during the previous motion that we had Honorable Modeni one time handing the Committee on Health, and when he left with the vigilance that was in that particular committee. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very sure that these honorable members are equal to the task. And now that it was seen that the majority leader and the whip are in some committees, and if they happen to travel abroad, there may be some vacuum. Mr. Speaker, I want to refute that one, because we have the deputy majority leader, and at the same time we have the deputy whip, who can always take chance whenever there is an opportunity. So we will never work in vacuum. Mr. Speaker, without sounding rude, I want to echo one honorable member who has just said we are all equal and anybody can serve in any committee. So, Mr. Speaker, by virtue of the fact that one is nominated to be, or one was placed in the selection committee, that person should not be disqualified by that fact alone. Because if anything, this committee will sit down after so many days, if there will ever be need, just like the appointment committee just ended its job unless there are other changes in place. So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly feel that the members, the way they have been praised, if they give their best, we will be able to move forward. Mr. Speaker, I want to really say we really trying to see what we can do with professionalism. And I want to cite a case where we have 3 rand practitioners in this particular room. And Mr. Speaker, we have around 3 health practitioners again in this room. And our concerns were, should we put them in one committee, who becomes the chair and who becomes the vice? And at the same time putting into considerations that we want to consider in every particular committee the nature of balancing, the coalition partners and the interests of the independents, and of course the gender that you really talked of the last time that you addressed the House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is nothing that stops any committee from soliciting for professionalism. It is in fact within our standing orders that any committee sitting anywhere can source for professionalism if they find it okay to co-opt members from other committees. Only that is not getting the people. It is allowed. Sourcing for professionals as you do your work is also allowed. So, Mr. Speaker, if you go in one stage, I'm very sure and double sure that we'll be able to work out on various issues. Mr. Speaker, as I was laying documents on the floor of the House, there is a document that was referred to a committee. Mr. Speaker, when we were talking during the appointment committees, we really talked of how seriously we need the one fund. It can never be actualized unless you have a supplemental budget, and the supplemental budget cannot take place if we have no committee of budget in place. So, Mr. Speaker, I really request this honorable members to pass this motion. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to issues of budget making, of the process itself, Mr. Speaker, we had a privilege of getting inducted on that one, and I'm very sure every member here knows that at one given time they will have an opportunity to appear before the budget committee. So the budget is made in accordance with provisions in particular committee. So every other committee will have an opportunity to scrutinize the budget, participate in the process of budget making, and at the end of the day, when that budget comes before this House, every other member will still have an opportunity to air their views. The way I've known most of those two members who appeared in the budget committee, I know they embrace the spirit of consultations, and I'm very sure as long as they are there, they will make sure that they consult widely before any budget finds its way to this particular house. But let us be keen enough to be involved in the whole process of budget making so that we don't wait for the very last day when the budget comes in this house to maybe think that we can do so many things. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate these members once again for finding it fit to travel from wherever they were to come to this house, and at the same time, Mr. Speaker, the way they have deliberated, I want to thank them humbly to pass this motion so that, Mr. Speaker, we can have our house moving. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I will put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Section 14B of the County Government Act 2012 and Standing Order number 185 of the Tharaka County Assembly, Standing Orders, the Assembly do adopt and approve the report on Committee on Selection or nomination of members of the County Assembly to serve in various County Assembly committees. Will as many as those with a similar opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as those with a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Let's proceed to the next order.
We have the Assembly Standing Order number 39.3 provides that 9 part 3 provides that on a day when the Assembly is scheduled to adjourn to a day other than the next normal sitting day, in accordance with the Assembly calendar, the leader of majority party or the leader of minority party or another member of the Assembly Business Committee shall move a motion of adjournment which shall be debated for not more than 3 hours, after which the Assembly shall stand adjourned without question and vote.